everyone. I'm Francesca Christian with On the Horizon, a program that celebrates new and exciting, upcoming creative work. I'm here today with Adam K. Roberts. Hi, Adam. Welcome.
Francesca, I could not be more thrilled to be here.
Adam is an award-winning vocal coach, music director, arts strategist, and the artistic director of Tilt Performance Group in Austin, Texas. Tilt is a nonprofit, disability-focused company now in its 7th year, co-founded by Adam Roberts, Robert Pearson, and Gail Darwimple. And they now have a new executive director, Amy Tarver. So Adam, let's jump right in.
I'm looking forward to it.
Tell us about your article that was featured in the Disabilities issue of American Theater magazine in December of 2020.
Sure. American Theater magazine was doing some features that they were publishing with different artistic directors around the country. And they were asking the question about what is on the horizon on the horizon. What is on the horizon for theater in America during and post-pandemic? And so, because Tilt, as you mentioned, is a disability-centric theater company, I had the opportunity to write an article that talked a little bit about what we might be looking at in terms of access on the other side of the pandemic in the arts. And one of our company members came up with this term, theater of circumstance. And I thought, how great of a concept a theater of circumstance could be. And so this article basically fleshes out my interpretation of that term that our company member, Kristen Gooch, coined in discussion one day.
Now, speaking of COVID, how did COVID-19 affect Tilt Performance Group in terms of performance and its practice?
Sure. We were in the middle of working on our first docu-theater production when the pandemic hit. So what I mean by that is we were doing an original piece that we were writing around interviews that we had conducted with members of the disabled community here in Austin. So thankfully, we had already filmed the interviews with the folks we were interviewing for this piece before the shutdown happened. And then a couple weeks later, we were all in lockdown and we decided to go online because as a disability-focused company, we're all about access. And so many of our company members now are actually more readily able to participate in our work because they can turn on their computer as opposed to having to wait perhaps 2 hours for transportation on one end and another. And for a variety of different reasons, it's actually provided us more access. So we anticipate continuing a hybrid existence with Tilt, even when we're back in person, continuing to do our educational opportunities online.
Now, is Tilt then a trailblazer?
I like to think that Tilt is a trailblazer. Our mission is to shatter stereotypes about disability through inclusive theater. And I think that one of the ways that we have been able to do that is becoming a major part, really, of the national conversation on disability in the arts. Tilt has become known in recent years as really a forerunner of practice and of approach and of philosophy regarding disability devising and the arts. And so we've been able to be on many podcasts and many interviews and all sorts of things around the country that have contributed to the conversation.
You once told me that Tilt is not a cause. What does that mean exactly?
Sure. When we were thinking about Tilt initially, we were really thinking about how do we talk about what Tilt is to a potential audience. And so I think that we really hit on the idea that although we are a 501c3 and most 501c3s are educational or charitable in some way, I don't really think Tilt has turned out to be a cause. Tilt has really turned out to be a forum in many ways and a conduit for really spreading this news about how people are whole people, and there's an intersectionality within all of us that creates our wholeness, and that the ways in which we manifest that through art is beautiful and unique because of that individuality, but also not set apart because of something like disability.
The crazy thing about Tilt is that it's not specific in any area of what a disability might be. In fact, there's actors on stage with disabilities from all across the spectrum, from physical to cognitive, and that they all, even within their own struggle in life, can connect with one another. There's an empathy, there's a grace, there's an understanding, and there's still drama and there's still tension, and that's a part of being human. And you see that.
I really seek out social interactions with other people with disabilities, and particularly with people with developmental disabilities, because I find a level of acceptance of my humanness when I'm around in social groups with other people with developmental disabilities that I don't find anywhere else.
What does the word accommodation mean to you and to the people in your communities?
You know, accommodation to me is very similar to access. And I have a vision disorder of my own. I have a progressive vision disorder, and I'm a conductor and a pianist. And so accommodation for someone like me could mean, for example, enlarging sheet music. Now, for my particular issue, that doesn't help me a whole lot. I have to accommodate myself by putting a music stand closer to my face, for example, when I play or when I conduct even sometimes. So providing access to me is really accommodation.
That word has resonated for me, and I think now about all the ways that I require accommodations in my own life, and it's just been it's a leveler. We all need accommodations. We all want to be encouraged to accommodate things that we need to help us do things better.
Isn't it the truth?
Yeah.
There's a great graphic that many folks who are watching may have experienced already, but it's two boxes, and on one box, or in one of the frames, there are three people that are standing on equal sized boxes, and that says equality, right? And so they're all standing on equal sized boxes, but they're all different in height. And so it doesn't really change a whole lot about what they're able to experience looking over the fence that they're looking over. But then in the other parallel box, it says equity. And these folks all have the box that makes them the same height to look over the fence. And I think that really, to me, accommodation is equity, not equality. Right? So we can achieve equality in its way.
Right. Well, equity is my new word.
I love it.
Accommodation was my recent word. Now equity is my new word.
So it's a Venn diagram there.
Would you describe yourself as an activist?
I would not have used that label for myself probably until maybe 3 years ago or so. I think that Tilt really is the core of that activism, and because I now represent Tilt as a primary voice of the organization to the public and programmatically make most of the decisions about what we do, I think that I'm an activist by proxy on behalf of Tilt.
You are the only person in your family who is not a mortician.
That is correct. Yeah, my mom is the business manager of my family's small town funeral home in Northeast Ohio. My dad's a licensed funeral director and embalmer. My sister's a licensed funeral director and embalmer, so they operate Robert's Funeral Home.
What was it like growing up in a funeral home?
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I was there every day practically. And I think growing up in that environment taught me probably some of the most important life lessons that I would take into not only my work, but also just my perspective sort of on the world. And I think what I learned growing up is all of it is so unpredictable that presence, whatever that means to a person, presence is so important. And as as an actor yourself, presence, how much we talk about that in the world of performance. And I think that that's probably my most direct connection in many ways to a concept of presence, was what I learned growing up in that environment.
Oh, And of course, compassion,
And compassion. And
compassion
compassion.
in that environment.
Just incredible.
So tell us about your latest venture, Resolution Creative, the social media branding company that you've developed with your business partner, David Hawkes.
Yes. So it's a great segue talking about presence, because another thing that we talk about all the time in the world of performance is authenticity. But authenticity is such a fleeting concept, and particularly in the world of social media, where we have so many ways to talk about ourselves or to talk about others or to talk about projects. The idea that is out there in the world certainly is that social media can be a very inauthentic platform for engaging with one another. And we've been really fortunate to work with incredible creatives from all different realms of the arts world. And it's been super fulfilling to watch people start to realize that authenticity can exist in that framework if it comes from you.
And I was interested in the fact that Austin Independent School District is one of your clients. I think that's awesome.
That's right. The Fine Arts Department of AISD was one of our very first clients, actually. And we have not only helped them to strategize their own social media presence, but one of the really neat things that we were able to do was to create a campaign for AISD Fine and Visual and Performing Arts. We were able to create a campaign for them at this time last year, actually, around April and May of 2020, during the pandemic, that allowed it was called Create and Connect. And we scripted it, we created curriculum materials, we worked as consultants with the district, and we were able to bring together the original artwork of students from all over the district into a virtual performing arts center performance that happened district-wide, and it was featured on TV, and it was really very fulfilling.
Oh. For 8 years, you have been the director of music at St. Luke's United Methodist Church here in Austin.
That's right.
What is different about directing music in this environment?
Oh, such a good question. I like to think of my work as a director of music in perhaps a more ecumenical and pastoral way, in the sense that my hope is that music is very much a conduit for a person's ability to experience community and to express, to worship. And so I'm always thinking about, as again we do in theater, what verbs and tactics, if you will, are behind the reason for the music making in this case. Mm-hmm. And I think in the context of a faith-based music making, you're thinking to worship, to commune, to express, to share.
That's great. And those concepts are part of what we do as artists. That I think we really move toward that, and we really want to find that to make good theater or good music or something that will reach an audience. I think those are values that we really strive for. So absolutely. You're telling me that functions in all those environments for you.
It does, absolutely. I mean, I think, art is very active. As a musical director, I think we should also be going toward verbs as opposed to, I'm going to play this loudly or softly. I always think of dynamic markings in music as the stage directions of music, more than I think of them as turn up the volume knob, turn down the volume knob, right?
So Adam, I'm sorry to say that we are at the end of our time here.
Hey, it's been a blast.
It's going so fast, but thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your performance work, your writing, your collaborations, your grit. It's just been a real pleasure having you here today.
Well, I want to thank you for your questions, because I so appreciate being able to have a conversation with someone who is so accomplished as you. I've followed all of your work since I've been in Austin, and I just am honored to be here and to have this conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, the feeling is mutual. For those of you watching this program, just below the YouTube recording you're watching right now, there's a button that says Show More. Click on that and you'll get a list of the resources and topics we've covered today. So with that, we'll say goodbye. This is Francesca Christian on the horizon with Adam K. Roberts signing off. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Love doesn't leave a physical scar like pain does. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.